double scoops.
Hi guys. Hello guys, and welcome to the chat. Forgot what I was going to say there, Darren. Welcome to the channel, guys. Welcome to episode 3 of Double Scoops, a Halloween podcast or a Halloween video podcast. We've got a special guest today. We've got Darren from The Slaughtered Lamb. How are you doing today, Darren?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, no, not a problem. It's a pleasure having you on. Now, one thing I forgot to ask you before we went on live is I've done this twice now. Is my audio coming from my mic? Hello.
Tap on it. Yeah,
right, perfect. Because I plugged this in last week and I was talking to Cecil from the horror show and I asked him, can you hear me okay? And he said, yeah. And then I listened to it back and it was the audio from my laptop that was recording from.
Oh, really?
This. Because I was listening to it back. I'm like, it doesn't sound right. And then I realized it was from that.
Yeah. Schoolboy error. I've done it before. Frank's done it before. You know, that kind of thing happens now and again. It's Just. But anyway, you sound good now. Anyway,
you sound good as well. Perfect.
Cheers. Thank you.
So I'll go into the chat in a few seconds. We're just going to talk about what we're going to talk about today, and that is Halloween 2. It's going to be everything and anything about Halloween 2. Now, obviously, it's called Double Scoops, so it can be anything about Halloween. So if anyone's in the chat just now and they want to veer off from Halloween 2, I don't recommend it, but if you do, then it's absolutely fine. There's no rules. But we'll be mostly talking about Halloween 2 today. I did ask Darren what kind of topics he likes for Halloween. I don't know what your favorite sequel is in the Halloween franchise, Darren, but I know that you're a fan of Halloween 2, aren't you?
It is for sure Halloween 2.
Is that your favorite sequel? Right.
It is. I saw it as soon as it came out on VHS when I was a young lad. And I still think it's the strongest Halloween sequel to date. And for a number of reasons. I think Dean Cundy has a lot to do with that. I think a lot of the original crew that were involved in the original film, even John Carpenter, Deborah Hill producing, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It just feels to me like a kind of seamless journey from part 1 to part 2. The Panaglide, the lighting, the locations and everything that we used in the original film. Everything about it just seems like it's a complete continuation from that original movie. And so as a kid, I've talked about this before on our channel, but as a kid, I would edit out the credits and put the two movies together on VHS have it go seamlessly across. And to me, it's one complete movie, part 1 and part 2.
I was going to say, it's funny you should say that. I don't think I've ever watched part 1 and 2 on the same night, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you should do it. It's a double bill for me.
I know.
For sure.
Don't know why.
I'll tell this story. I once bored a girl I was dating to death by screening Halloween 1 to her, and she didn't even enjoy it. But I'd had a few drinks, and I was like, but we got to watch Halloween 2 now. So I put that in, and then she just fell asleep. That was it.
3 hours of her life, she'll never get back.
Exactly.
Well, or you can maybe it's 2 hours 55 if you remove one of the credits.
Yeah, something like that.
Right, we'll go into the chat just now, see who's here first of all, and then we'll get started. I've got some bullet points, but like I said, we can veer off, and obviously if the chat want to veer off as well, it's fine. Allergy, not allergy. Ali Girls here.
Ali G. That would be great.
Isn't it?
West Side.
Happy Thursday, yo. Very excited for this stream. Gene Widdicombe is here as well. Hello, Barry and Darren.
Hey, Gene.
Jacob, the wrestling fan. Hello. Who else have we got? That's what she said. Hello, guys. David Deffrey is here. Hi, Davey. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Davey.
Yeah, and Justin's here as well. There's more chats coming through. Rob's here. Jamie Lee Curtis's wig aside, Halloween 2 is a near perfect sequel. Yeah, we'll talk about the pros and the cons. I think I might have some more cons than Darren, unless Darren is going to be a little bit more honest. I don't know.
I have a few. Few for sure. Yeah.
Byron's here. Hello. So before we begin, Darren, I never showed you this at the start because I wanted you to be surprised. Are you ready?
Okay.
Let's have a look. T-shirt. Boo.
Oh, wow. Oh, brilliant. They've started being delivered. I don't have one yet. I've ordered some and they haven't come yet. Is quality good? Are they good?
This one is really good. Now, I ordered for myself as well, I ordered some samples for my own t-shirts that I make, and I ordered the premium ones for me because I thought they would be better quality. But when it came, it was too tight fitting. You could see all my lumps and bumps, quite thin. I was like, oh no. But this one that I got from yours is the classic fit.
Yeah.
So I've got the classic fit. Fits perfectly. Nice feel.
Excellent.
So really nice.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad. That's really cool. Loads of people are putting pictures on the group and sending me messages of the stuff that's arrived, and I'm like, that's so great. I'm so jealous because I haven't got mine yet.
I'll sell you mine.
You're gonna wash it first, right?
Oh no. I'll have that Wolfman smell. But it's really nice fit, and I like the quality of the print as well.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good. Thank you.
So, guys, if you're in the chat, if you've not picked it up yet, Darren's got his merch started. There we go.
It's a really kind of. Did you not feel it was like a bit of a leap doing t-shirts? Because we'd been asked for 2 or 3 years now, are you going to do some merch? Are you going to do some merch? And we sort of did some, but we didn't kind of put it on sale. We just made it for ourselves. Yeah. And then because it just feels a bit self-indulgent to do that, but so many people were asking us that, and you introduced me to you showed me how to do it. Yeah. And I thought, it's fairly straightforward. It's there's no pressure on us at all because it's all handled by a third party. Exactly. And it seems to be working well. So thanks for the recommendation.
No, not a problem at all. The funny thing is though, and I'm kind of glad this is the case, but I've got like 25 different designs on there, and the least selling designs are Wolfman's Got Nards, so I'm happy with that. my best selling ones are like the movie related ones, and I don't take offense to that because I would purchase the movie ones over my own. So no
that's
offense.
Really funny.
I know. I think I've sold about 20 to 25 Wolfman's Got Nards in my lifetime, like like on the Spring channel. I've sold the Wolfman's Got Nards on different websites like Redbubble and Tmill, Teespring and stuff, whatever they call it. But on Spring that I've connected to YouTube, maybe about 20 or so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, maybe it'll pick up. Maybe you'll get some more Wolfman stuff sold.
I don't mind if I can sell a Halloween one or I know what you did last summer one. I'm happy with that as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into Halloween 2.
Okay.
So, first of all, one thing I didn't really think of until I was reading like fun facts and stuff like that is they obviously had no plans for a sequel. I think everybody knew they had no plans for it, especially John Carpenter. He's like, no sequels. But at the time, there wasn't that many sequels out there. So even though it was left on a cliffhanger in 1978 and there was no plans, I think that was natural back then because they never thought sequels were a thing. There was, I can't remember when in Taking Shape, they mentioned 3 sequels that came out in 1978.
Exorcist 2 is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. And there was 2 other ones, I can't remember, but that was quite rare. And then they decided, you know what, let's do a sequel because it doesn't really happen. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you would have been too young, but did you find out there was a sequel coming, or did you already know there was a sequel by the time you got into it?
So I think I saw Halloween. I'm trying to remember when it was. It was around the time E.T. came out, because we would hire a video cassette recorder, and along with it came a kind of not too legit copy of E.T. And at the same, so that was for the kids, and then Mum and Dad got Halloween and Phantasm and something else I can't remember now. So I saw Halloween in around about 1982. I would have been 9 years old, and literally a couple of weeks after I'd watched it, I was walking past my local cinema and there was a poster for Halloween 2. And that's how I learned, because there was no internet or anything like that. It was posters in cinemas where you got your kind of information about upcoming films. And I saw this poster for Halloween 2. It obviously came out of the cinema, didn't do particularly well in the UK. And I think it would be another kind of year, maybe I had to wait for it to drop on Thorny and My Video over here it was. And I begged and pestered my dad to rent it. And we rented it. And yeah, I guess I saw it around about 40 years ago. So not too long after it came out in the grand scheme of things, because it would have been 81. It might have even been early 82 in the UK when it came out, because we always used to have to wait 6 months or so between the US release and the UK release. So it was a little while after the initial US release. So yeah, but I think I was one of the first people probably to see it on VHS.
That's quite a good start there. I honestly don't remember when I first seen it, and I think I seen it without paying attention to it as well. It was one of those times it must have been on TV, maybe in the mid 80s to the late 80s. And I watched it thinking it was Halloween 1. Like, I wouldn't pay attention to the title. I'd be like, well, there's Michael Myers. It must be Halloween. So unfortunately, I don't remember the first time seeing it, but I do remember the first time watching it and paying attention to it, which was 1998. I was 14, coming up for 15. I just came off the back of loving Halloween H2O, and I thought I need to rewatch the other ones. So I got a hold of all the other films and watched them religiously since 98 to obviously now. So having seen it before in the 80s and 90s, and then watching it again in the late 90s, obviously I appreciated it. I loved it back then as well. And I watched it again today. Not for the first time in years, but I watch it regularly. But the latest being today. And I still, we'll go into this anyway, but I still think it holds up pretty well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The lighting, the cinematography, everything about it. I would say that a lot of directors and cinematographers today would be jealous as to how that movie looks for the time and the cost.
Yeah.
Went. So, in fact, you'll know this as well with the Taking Shape. I think it was in the Dean Cundey interview that the cinematographer for the David Gordon Green trilogy asked Dean Cundey for some tips, and he's like, "I'll give you some tips, but you really need to do it yourself. Learn yourself, and you'll get your own vibe. But I'm always happy to give tips." So it's amazing to think that 35 to 40 years later, someone like Dean Cundey, who is obviously the best of the best, has still been asked to this day, how do you do this? Because I can't do it, and I can't do it. I love lighting. I'm a photographer, but getting his lighting and stuff like that, it looks easy, but it's definitely not, so.
And it's that whole thing of, it still feels dark. It doesn't feel like kind of lit in any way, in terms of, like some films you see at night, it's clearly lit. This, with the hues that he uses, the blue hues, it's dark, but yet you can see everything. You never at all feel like you're in a lit space. It's so subtle, and things that, that anything that's kind of that isn't dark is illuminated in some way, but really subtly. With the hues, it's amazing. It is. I never watch that film and think I can't see what's going on here. It's not like watching the Alien Predator Requiem or something like that, where it's just like watching it through mud. This is just it's clear as day all the time, even though you feel like it's pitch dark. It's an amazing talent that he had to be able to do that.
Yeah, a great example of using the hues naturally but intentionally is. Do you remember the scene where Lumis is in the police car with the sheriff?
Yeah.
And he's got this little green light attached to his wing mirror, and it's shining in. So it's like a little green police light. But the way it's shining in just shines the green hue on both their faces. And you're like, well, this looks like something from Prince of Darkness or something. But it's beautiful. It's and again, it doesn't look forced, but it's intentional. It's weird. But
you've also got that kind of passing traffic that's illuminating them as well as they're driving. It's so well done. Well done.
You get films that you see like a blue hue, and you'll be wondering, but where's that blue hue coming from? It just makes no sense. But in this film, it's intentionally done in a natural way. It's so random. But that's Dean Cundey for you. So I don't think it can be replicated. It's too much.
Yeah.
I'll go into the next bit in a second. I'm just going to check the chat, and then we'll get into the next bit. Byron Weaver is here. Hi, Darren.
Hey, Byron.
Debbie's here.
Hey, Debbie. How you doing?
Shamrock Balls. Hey, you two sexy animals.
Hey, David. How you doing, mate?
Are you drunk? Batshit Scary. Hey, how's everyone doing?
Mr. Shit Scary, how you doing, buddy? Sean?
How you doing? Who else have we got in here? Lulu. Well, rumor has it that we might get a Halloween limited series either on Hulu or Paramount Plus. Well, that's the definite news. We don't know when or what it's going to be about, but we're definitely getting Halloween series. Don't know how limited it will be, but it's definitely happening.
Hopefully it's limited. I don't think you can go on too long with these things, can you? You know?
Oh yeah. 1 or 2 seasons I think would be enough. But
yeah.
If it's successful, then it might be going on forever. Someone in the TSL chat, I think, referred to Darren and Frank as the Brit and the Beard. That could be a T-shirt design. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
Get someone to do a little beard and little glasses. That'd be quite cool. I wish Halloween 2 1981 was canon to Blumhouse's Halloween trilogy. It's a shame because the only thing that's not really canon is the relationship between Laurie and Michael. You could still have that in there, but they obviously removed that. And I think, don't know how you feel about this, but I felt like there was a good idea to remove the brother-sister aspect when the trilogy came out. After it's done though, and I think back, I'm like, I actually preferred the brother and sister aspect because how else or why else would Michael Myers go after Laurie? It has to be like a coincidence in the trilogy enforced, whereas having a reason, I don't know. What did you think of that?
I think, well, one, I think that I think one of the reasons why they probably, not just the brother-sister angle as well, but the amount of damage that Michael took on in Halloween 2 was probably a little too much for them to carry on, getting his eyes shot out, being burnt to a crisp. I know they did it in Halloween 4, but, you have to ask yourself, was he blind? I always get that, in the back of my head, wouldn't he be blind? Or is it just a movie thing and you forget about it? Yeah. So I get why they would take out Halloween 2 out of the canon. Brother sister angle as a kid, because I saw it as a kid, you kind of tend to buy into that stuff a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And so I've always grown up with that in my head. And so I'd never had a problem with the brother-sister angle. I always thought it was a really interesting thing to do. Again, probably because I was, 10, 11 years old when I saw it. So I didn't really think they were jumping the shark with it. So I wouldn't have minded if they'd have carried that on.
Yeah, same. I was going to talk about this anyway, but there was the scene where Michael got shot in the eyes. Do we definitely know it was his eyes that he got shot? I mean, it looked like he got shot. I know it doesn't make much of a difference, but it looked like he kind of got shot here because you could still see the whites of his eyes. Obviously, that's just the makeup, but they could have just said he got shot here. Don't know how he wouldn't have died.
Well, where's the bullet holes, though, if he did get shot higher? I think the whole thing is he's supposed to have got shot in the eyes, and that's why he's holding his face, because, he's in pain, he can't see, and that's why he's just kind of lashing out like a caged lion or something, isn't he?
Or maybe the blood's getting in, maybe the blood's running in his eyes, and that's what's blinding him.
Could be. But even so, if you took 2 slugs to the head and then got blown up, it's still a stretch, isn't it?
You could still make Halloween 2 canon until like a certain part of the. I know that they probably think either include the movie or don't include the movie, but you could include some of the movie aspects to it, like brother and sister getting taken to hospital, Michael coming back again and then disappearing. Maybe that's when they could cut it. But I get it. I don't think they wanted people to be confused. So either include it or don't include it.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Doug Easter says, "What's up, Barry and Darren? Love you guys. Love you too, Doug. Halloween 2 has the best intro sequence in the series. It and Return of Michael Myers Part 4 are neck and neck. What do you think? Well, obviously it's the beginning of the movie, so we can talk about it. How did you feel the intro went?
I think
with the seamless thing.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. If I could remove anything, it would be the kind of comedy Wile E. Coyote outline on the lawn. Because even when he's blown out the window and Lumis looks, there's no grass down there. But all of a sudden in Halloween 2, there's a freshly grown lawn. Mm-hmm. What they were planning on doing was there was a couple of substitute ideas they had for Halloween 2. One of them being that Laurie wasn't going to be in Halloween 2. It was all going to be concentrated on other characters. Another one was that they were going to shoot a sequence at the start of Halloween 2, whereas just as that battle is going on at the top of the stairs between Laurie and Michael and Lumis coming in and intervening, some trick-or-treaters were going to knock at the door.
Yeah.
The door was open. They would walk in, look up the stairs, see Lumis shoot Michael, and then Michael would land at the back of the kids who were trick-or-treating on the ground at the back, which I thought would have been a nice little kind of seeing things from a different angle type opening. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then are you kind of rewriting what happened in the original ever so slightly? Because surely if kids had witnessed something like that, they would have screamed and ran off. And, you know, I get why they didn't do it in the end, but
yeah,
it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I read that as well. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't they include that? But that makes sense. Obviously, the kids would start screaming.
Yeah.
Unless it's one of those moments caught in time, like they done at the beginning of Halloween 1, where obviously Michael comes out with a knife and his parents are like, Michael, and then it kind of zooms out. They don't do anything. A lot of people question that, like why they're just standing there. But it's kind of like a moment captured in time.
That's right. It's that tableau effect that Dave talks about a lot, you know. Yeah.
So maybe they could have done something like that. I don't know. But I understand why they would not include that. But that would have been a cool idea. I think just seeing the kids trick-or-treating, because I think there's something scary about when you see the little Tommy and Lindsay running out screaming and then Lumis sees them. It's quite frightening, especially when you watch it when you're a kid.
Yeah.
So just hearing the kids screaming in Halloween 2 at the beginning, you'd be like, whoa, there's something going on here, you know? Yeah, that would have been good. Other ideas that they had for Halloween 2, I'll go through some of them. Maybe you have more, or maybe you know about this. But some of the ideas were Laurie was going to be at college. Laurie was going to be living in, this is a popular one, living in a high-rise flat, similar to Someone's Watching Me.
Yeah.
And they even considered shooting it in 3D as well. I'm guessing.
There was a 3D come up? There was a resurgence of 3D in sort of 82, 83 with things like Jaws, Space Hunter, Amityville 3D. There was kind of about half a dozen movies that came out in the sort of 82, 83 period. Which was probably them, you know, considering jumping on that bandwagon. But Halloween 2 3D, I mean, it would have been shocking, wouldn't it? Because all those films that came out around then that were in 3D look bloody awful today, don't they?
I mean, obviously, some of the scenes wouldn't make sense if you're not watching it in 3D. Wouldn't you? With like Friday the 13th Part 3, where they do certain things to the camera, and you're I can see why they do that, because it's supposed to be 3D, but
yo-yos and juggling and TV aerials, kind of
so random. Don't know what scenes they would have put in 3D. Did you like any of the ideas that you read about? Like, if you had to choose, if you didn't know that we're going to set it at the hospital, what idea would you like?
In terms of overall ideas, I think I prefer. I mean, there was so at one point Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't going to be in it, because they felt that she'd aged too much between 78 and 81, and they thought it might not be. And she'd obviously cut her hair and she was a woman and looked a lot more mature at that point. And so, as I said before, they were going to kind of do this sequel without her and introduce new characters. She was going to be dead at the start of Halloween 2, so it wouldn't have been a continuation of the night before. It maybe had been a year later or something like that, and something's happened to Laurie, I don't know what, but she wasn't going to be in it. But because she'd had the success with Prom Night, Terror Train, you know, she was a scream queen, and you know, she was well known, and so they thought she was an asset to the franchise, and decided to bring her back and put that god awful wig on her. Which some people, I had a guy write to me the other day, so why do you keep going on about a wig? I didn't know it was a wig until you mentioned it. Come on. I mean, you watch it in 4K now, you can see the join.
Yeah, the little lines. Yeah, I've seen that, when she's lying in the hospital bed and she's like comatose, and you're like, what is that? You're some sort of weird wig. But yeah, it's so obvious.
But no, I to answer your question, I think they went the right route, continuing it, because I love films when they do that. I loved Dean Cundey again, Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. The way that those two films seamlessly, even though they're 4 years apart, they seamlessly blend into each other, part one and part two.
Yeah.
And it's not many films do that. I guess Halloween Kills did it to Halloween 2018. That those two kind of blend into each other, but literally there was only kind of a year to different, a year apart with the filming or something.
Yeah.
But to go back and do this 3 years after, I thought was great, and they gave it their best shot, and it looks fantastic. You'd swear it was the same night, apart from the wig.
Yeah, apart from the wig, yeah. But I feel the same. Like I don't think I'd ever seen a film like it before. Like I can't remember if there was any films even before Halloween 1 and 2 that done that, set on the same night and been shot years apart. I know 3 years isn't a lot, but for amateur filmmakers at the time, like John Carpenter wasn't the biggest filmmaker. For them to go back and redo a $300,000 movie the way they done it in 1981 to make it look like 1978 was great. And I'm guessing they went into more attention to detail than we even knew. Like maybe we're not from the US, but maybe they only used cars in the film from 1978 and before. They're probably thinking, don't include a 79 car, an 80 car, or an 81. We wouldn't know anyway, but people in the US would know. Other things that would have to change to make sure that it looked very 1978. And although it's Rick Rosenthal, it felt like a John Carpenter movie. We'll get into that anyway, because I think John Carpenter did do some things throughout the movie that we'll go into. But overall, if it was a Rosenthal film, he'd done a good job to make us believe that it was the same crew, the same director, everybody's the same. And most people did come back. But yeah, it felt like the same movie, the same night. And like you done with your VHS, if somebody showed me those two movies in one when I saw it for the first time, I'd be like, this is a long ass film and it looks like the one movie. So I believe they've done the right thing. Especially since Someone's Watching Me came out in 1978 anyway, and that was already high rise. It was done by John Carpenter. I don't think he would want to have done the same type of film with Michael Myers anyway. And then Laureate College, I don't know. I mean, I think college films back in the early 80s were more comedies, like Porky's and stuff. So I don't know if that would have worked, but it might have. But I think because we've got a decent enough film, it's hard to imagine Halloween 2 any other way now, especially because of the one night,
Sure.
Absolutely. Let me just check the chat. I didn't know this, but it's Leo Ross's birthday today.
Oh, really?
There you go. Good timing. Happy birthday.
I listened to the commentary today that he does with Rick Rosenthal. I thought I'd just have a listen, see if I can pick up anything that I don't remember before we do the show tonight. And I've got to say, it's boring. It's so boring. And it was obviously done quite some time ago as well, because Leo Ross is just, all he's doing is commenting on how good the girls look in the film. But there's long periods where neither of them speak. It's just like kind of, all they're doing is kind of reminiscing about old friends and stuff on the commentary. He really does add nothing to Halloween. It doesn't give anything to any Halloween fans out there.
Yeah. It'd be like watching sometimes you get like a watch along on YouTube. It'd be like watching people watching a film. Just
And there are certain things that that Rick Rosenthal says, which is kind of like, do you not know the fan base at all? He says, you see that guy there? Not many people know this, but that's Dana Carvey. And Leo Ross is like, really? Yeah, that's Dana. There's a few moments like that, which are kind of moments that are so obvious to Halloween fans.
Yeah,
that they think they're letting you into. You're getting a peek behind the curtain. But yeah, it's the curtain's been open a long time on this film.
Yeah, now, I've been told a few things. Like my mum or my sister will like tag me in something. This isn't what they've done, but this is just an example. They'll say like, "Did you know that?" It's the same mask that's used in Halloween 2 as it was in Halloween 1. I'm like, Oh yeah. I try not to disappoint them, so I'm like, oh, that's really good. Thanks for letting me know that. Or they say, did you know that John Carpenter didn't direct Halloween 2? I'm like, oh really? Oh, that's really nice.
That's
So,
the thing. The Halloween fan base is so, the news travels fast when anything new is discovered. So there's your average Halloween fan. There's not a lot they don't know about the franchise.
Yeah. That's why when I do my scrap scripts on the channel that are to do with the taking shape, I try and not do the videos in a way that only I know this information. I always say things like, just in case you didn't know, or I'm sure you know this, but I'll tell you anyway, kind of thing. I always assume that the viewer knows before I say it.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it's a bonus for them and a bonus for me. But just to cover myself, because I don't want to go like, oh, guess what, guys? I know something you don't know. And then I tell them something that everyone knows. Just like what you call it, the commentary.
Yeah, well, there's a podcast out there. I don't know if any of you have listened to this, but there's a podcast out there called "Movies That Were Never Made," and two guys. One of them is actually a screenwriter himself, and they're quite in the know with screenwriters in the industry, and they talk Halloween a lot. And what they do is they get on the screenwriters to talk about their experience of pitching to Malek and Trancas and everything, and talk about the scripts that they wrote, which were ultimately canned in the end. And there's some fascinating stuff you can listen to on that particular podcast. That's where I learned about the fact that the one, I can't remember whether it was Halloween Returns or Halloween, whatever the title was, I can't remember now, was where they'd written the Lumis role for Kurt Russell.
Right. Okay.
And with him in mind to play Lumis.
Wow.
Yeah. There's some really good stuff you can unearth on that. They don't just talk Halloween; they talk all films. But they do get the right people on who know what they're talking about and who were there at the time when these things were scrapped. To fill you in on the process they went through.
How good would it be to have Kurt Russell as Dr. Lumis?
Can you imagine? Listen, we live in hope. He's done a TV show for Apple, so why not?
True. Yeah. Why not come back for a TV show for Halloween? You never know.
Exactly.
Maybe
When you look at what the ambition was or is for the Friday the 13th TV series, if you and I were talking a year ago about casting the Friday the 13th TV series, I would have thought you nuts if you'd have said Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
as Mrs. Voorhees. Not because I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a fucking great idea. I just thought there's no way she would do it, or there's no way that she'd be interested, or there's no. I would thought she's totally out of reach, but no, that's who they were eyeballing, and shoot high. Why not?
Fair play. I think if they've got $80 to $85 million to play with, they might as well show that money.
Exactly.
Go, we can possibly get one or two big stars here. I know that Vera Farmiga wasn't huge when Bates Motel came out, but they managed to get Vera Farmiga, and she's incredible.
Well, she was Oscar nominated. Did she win an Oscar? I can't remember now. She was Oscar nominated. I remember that.
Can't remember what for.
Was it for? It was for the. Oh God, the.
The Departed.
No, it was. It was.
Was it after or was it before Bates Motel?
It was for. She was Best Supporting Actress in 2010.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Let me just have a look now. 20.
Oh, I came up there and I've lost it. I need to know
Was
this.
it Up in the Air or something like that?
Yeah.
It was
yep, I read Up in the Air there. So she was nominated for Up in the Air.
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that.
So that was before Bates Motel, right? Yeah, yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
They managed to get an Oscar-nominated actress in a lead role for Bates Motel, and it turned out great. Well, to me anyway. I like that.
Ben Grimm says, he called it Up in the Air. I couldn't remember the name of it, but yeah.
There you go. So why not? If you can get Charlize Theron for Friday the 13th, or even mention her that they're trying to get her, then why not Kurt Russell? As long as John Carpenter's around, he might as well say, Kurt, go for it. I think you should do it. Yeah, I would have been doing the score.
Yeah.
There you go. We've got Flet in the house.
Hey Kyle.
Darren, how you doing? welcome to the chat. You've not missed too much. In fact, I've missed a lot of the chat. Apologies, guys. Power Packers here. Hey, friendos. People are talking about her wig. Her wig in 2 always takes me out of the movie. It is. I think she used more than one wig, and maybe
Probably.
because there was a scene where she had a kind of longish wig, and then do you remember the scene where she's drugged out and she turns around and she sees the nurse getting lifted up with the scalpel?
Yeah.
Her hair looks a lot shorter in that one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that looks like a different wig that she had on in the bed. I don't. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't.
It could be. I mean, you never know. I mean, like, who knows?
I think it was
continuity wasn't great with the wig.
Yeah. Yep, Frank. We will maybe discuss that. I think maybe you can definitely see what that's about. Speaking of that was a great kill scene, wasn't it?
It is.
Like,
it is.
It's probably my favorite kill scene in that film, for definite.
Leo Rossi talks about it on the commentary, and he said that when when they were about to shoot, she got really nervous and wouldn't go topless.
Right.
And so Rick Rosenthal pulled Leo Rossi aside and said, look, I think if you go in there naked, then there's more of a chance that she will do it as well. Mm-hmm. So he said he did. He went in there naked and he got in the hot tub, but the hot tub was freezing cold water. And he actually says in the commentary, he said he was so embarrassed because he looked down at one point and all he says is one word: raisin. But from that moment, she actually kind of got into the spirit of things and did what they wanted to do. But I mean, that sounds all a bit kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it does sound awkward. But the whole scene was done in freezing cold water. Yeah,
I'd rather warm water. Surely, well, I don't.
Well, the problem you got then is the steam obscures the camera view and everything. Yeah.
There was some scenes in the film that I didn't realize this, but there's some scenes in the movie where it didn't look like a hospital. Was it a studio or was it like an abandoned hospital that they shot in?
No, I think they did use an actual. They used an actual building. I don't know if it was that. I can't remember now.
Well, see the end of the movie when Mike was doing this.
Yeah,
you can see the ceiling and it's got a big white circle on it as if it's like had dampness or something. And I'm like, you wouldn't have that in a real hospital because that's obviously against health and safety.
Yeah, I don't think it was an actual hospital. It was some sort of building though. So it wasn't. I don't think it was a studio, is what I'm trying to say. I think some of the shots may have been done in the studio. Certainly, the fire scene is done probably on a backlot or something on Universal, because it's a Universal picture, isn't it? It was probably done on the backlot there, because you can see the false walls that they've built when the explosion goes off. You can actually see behind them,
right?
But the most part, I think it was filmed in an actual building that they converted.
Well, let's talk about the directors that were considered for Halloween 2. We had David Lynch, who was considered.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
That was early in his career, though, so I'm guessing it wasn't they weren't expecting him to come on and do this whole weird sci-fi Twilight Zone type of directing. So, but it would have been weird though, if it was. I've not liked the David Lynch film yet.
Not even The Elephant Man.
Okay, I liked The Elephant Man. That was good. But that didn't feel like a David Lynch film.
No, it's too linear, isn't it? It's kind of. Whereas the one he did before that, I think, was Eraserhead. That's just fucking mental, absolutely mental. But Elephant Man, I mean, I like Eraserhead, but it is like just nuts. And as I said before, that noise all the way through, there's like an industrial noise going all the way through the film. Like, what is that?
Filmed it on an industrial estate. I watched the latest film I watched of David Lynch's. I think it's a year ago now, Mulholland Drive, and I expected to love it, but when I was watching, I'm like, "What is this? This is shocking." So maybe it's that I just don't get his style. I don't know, but I just couldn't get into it. I've never seen Twin Peaks. I never will, because I can't. I guess he's for some people, but I just don't know what a David Lynch Halloween movie would look like. If I would like to see it, oddly enough, but I don't know.
It'd be mad, as you know, like what would they do with the hot tub scene? Like, you can imagine what it would have been like if David Lynch had directed it. I don't know whether it got that far in terms of negotiations with him, or even if they actually did negotiate. From what I can remember from the book, didn't they say that like one newspaper announced that he was in talks or something like that?
I think it was just a talking stage, but I don't think he even read scripts or anything. The people that were almost going to direct it were John Carpenter, of course, but he said no. Tommy Lee Wallace and Deborah Hill were the two other ones. Tommy Lee Wallace said no because the script was terrible, which is fair enough. And Deborah Hill said no because she didn't want her first feature movie, to be a sequel. So
okay, did she ever direct?
That's a good question, because when I heard that, I'm like, oh, she must have been a director then. Deborah Hill.
I don't know if she did. Did she?
Maybe she declined that and then decided directing's not for her. Let's just check. Deborah Hill.
Just while you're doing that, Power Packer says, wasn't it an abandoned asylum? I think you're right.
Right.
I think you're right.
Well, that would make sense.
It was certainly a building that they converted into a hospital. I do know that.
No, she never directed anything. She just stuck to writing and producing and scripts. That's it.
You have a new member.
Oh.
Coy.
Oh, Happy Sanjo. Oh, Happy was a member before. So welcome back. Welcome back to the family. How are you doing, Coy?
Frank and I met Coy at Halloween 45.
Oh, did you? I'm guessing probably go to H50 then.
Probably, yeah.
I'll be there. Did I tell you I've got a little bank account set up?
You've got a little piggy bank on the go, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm putting £25 a month in for 4.5 years, and I'm doing a, what do you call it, a roundup. So if you spend, say, I don't know, £23.47, it'll round it up to £25. So the rest of that money goes into your little piggy bank. So I should have thousands of pounds by the time I book. So yeah,
cool. So if you'll need it.
Yeah, I know I will. So I'll be there, Coy, if you're there as well. But thanks for becoming a member again. Always appreciated. Helps the channel. So Deborah Hill, John Carpenter, Tommy Lee Wallace, David Lynch, those are the main players. Yeah. However, Rick Rosenthal came on to direct, and Rick Rosenthal did say that he didn't do it as a favor for John Carpenter. He didn't really know John Carpenter. He just done it. But he said that John Carpenter was quite hands-on. He would come in and say, like, no, do this and do that, and no, I'll change this and I'll do that. And since John Carpenter done the writing for it, he would then take the script. He would take what's been shot and edit a few things to make it look different to what Rick Rosenthal his vision was. So Rick Rosenthal was kind of angry with John Carpenter to the point where they've never spoken again. Not because they don't like each other, they've just never came across each other or contacted each other since. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, initially, Carpenter was sued by Irwin Yablans because Irwin had him lined up to do Halloween 2, to direct it, and to write it. And what he did was he signed up to do Escape from New York and The Fog with Avco Embassy. So Irwin Yablans sued Carpenter because he was supposed to do his film next, and they come to an agreement whereas as soon as he'd finished those films, he would then get knuckle down and write Halloween 2. I think he got out of the directing side of it as well. And that's when you get all those Carpenter yarns about him sitting down with a six-pack and writing this, and it's an abomination and all that kind of stuff. I think he's just too hard on himself about this film. But you're right. They tested it twice, I believe. Yep. If I remember rightly, it was tested twice. The first time, obviously, was Rick Rosenthal's cut. They tested it, and the scores were really bad. And the second time, they went away, re-edited it, tested it again, and Carpenter sat in on the second test screening and said it was like an episode of Quincy. It was just like wandering around this hospital. None of the tension was there. None of the gore scenes were there that we know Carpenter went off. And so Carpenter was basically drafted in to go and shoot a load of stuff to kind of spice it up and some more effect sequences and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
More kills. And I remember them saying that some of the feedback they had as well was that all the people that were getting killed were all older people.
Yeah,
there were no teens being killed in it. And so that's why you get the Alice scene at the start of the movie where she's kind of just randomly killed in her own house while she's on the phone, which is kind of odd because Michael, until you get to Halloween 2018, he never really deviated, and he just kind of went after people that got in his way, if you like. You know, like the girls in Halloween 3 shouting at him, you know, disturbing his house, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in this, he just kind of goes into someone's house randomly and just knifes her in the throat, doesn't he? It's kind of it's a great kill, but it is just kind of put in there to say, look, he's still killing teens as well.
Yeah, and it's one of those scenes where you think it's great at the time, but then when you think back, you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, why has he deviated? If he's on his way to Haddonfield Memorial, why stop and go after this girl? So it doesn't make any sense. There is a lot of scenes that don't make sense that we'll go into as well, obviously because of some deleted scenes and messing around by Carpenter.
Yeah.
What Carpenter did, like you said, he removed some of the suspense from the film, like the suspense that we had in the first movie, and he added the gore. He decided to go with the gore and the body count. But looking back, he knows that the best thing about the original Halloween was the suspense and the little body count and hardly any gore. And all props to John Carpenter. He took the blame for Halloween 2's failure. He called it a failure. He didn't like it. And he blamed himself, not just now because he's looking back, but he blamed himself back then as well. So props to him for realizing he's made a mistake. We don't think he's made a mistake because we actually enjoy the movie. But to him, he knew the best thing about the original was that suspense. And it was suspenseful to me as a 10, 15-year-old kid. But I can see where he's coming from in terms of the shift and making it more gory than suspense.
And it was the thing to do at the time, you know. Slashers had really kind of taken off, and it was all about the gore and the death count, and that's why, you know, the original film only has 4 or 5 kills in it. This has
10, 11.
10, 11, I don't know. And I always get confused as to whether whenever I try and tally it all up, I've always got a different number to what the ambulance drivers have.
Yeah, they say 10, don't they? And then
are they including the kills in Halloween 1? Are they including the babies? Because no one took the babies out of there before the place blew up.
are they what I mean? Jimmy? I don't know if
Jimmy wasn't supposed to be dead, but then they cut it in such a way that he probably was. And so it's kind of, it's an odd one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So there's a very questionable. Maybe we should go into Dead Meat and find out how many he counted. So deleted scenes was the next part. Before I go into deleted scenes, apologies, guys. I'll come into the chat. If you see anything, Darren, then let me know.
Sure.
So I think somebody said that Deborah Hill directed Adventures in Babysitting, but she didn't. I think she maybe just wrote that. Jamie Hart's in the chat. Hello. How are you doing, Jamie?
Hey, Jamie.
Hello. Let me just check. That's fine. You're talking to each other, which is fine. Eli Cortez asked, Longlegs or Nosferatu, which is going to break the box office? It's going to be Nosferatu.
I think Longlegs is small.
Yeah.
Good, but small. Nosferatu's going to be huge.
Yeah, I think Longlegs will probably get up to, this is a guess at the moment, maybe up to 15 million worldwide, 20 million max, whereas Nosferatu would beat that in the weekend it comes out. So I know it's out Christmas Day, and not a lot of people probably see it on Christmas Day, but I think it'll have I think it'll have long legs for a couple of weeks, if not a month or two. But Nosferatu, I think that's got the potential to get into triple figures, potentially 100 million, depending on how good it is.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
did you see the trailer for it?
Yes, yeah. I think I thought it was terrific. I
Same.
really. We talked about it briefly on the channel the other day. I think obviously Robert Eggers is a smart guy, really talented director, and with that cast as well. And it's great that he's holding the whole Skarsgård look back. There seems to be. I don't know whether the pictures online are they genuine? The ones of him in the makeup?
No,
they're not. They're fake, are they?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know what he looks like yet, which is brilliant, and they should hold that back maybe until the film, even.
I think so
the
too.
full look. The full look. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did hold it back. We're definitely going to get another trailer because it's not until Christmas, so we'll probably get another trailer September, October time would maybe be a good time to bring another trailer out if they do that. But if they don't bring another trailer out, I'm happy with that because that sold me. Like I was going to see it anyway, but seeing that trailer, it's completely sold. But that's my most anticipated horror of the year now. Was Maxine, but now it's.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm seeing it on Monday, Maxine.
Oh,
so excited. I'm going to watch Pearl again on Sunday.
Right.
But yeah, so excited to see Maxine.
I might watch X before Maxine. That makes more sense to me.
Well, the reason I'm watching Pearl is because my wife hasn't seen Pearl. She's coming with me to watch the film on Monday. Right. So she's seen X. She hasn't seen Pearl. Maybe we'll watch both.
Could do.
Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
It'll take you back to the olden days of your Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 on the same night.
No, so looking forward to it.
Me too, definitely. Ali Girl said, I was thinking she directed, but I'm like, Dave, I'm getting old. I don't like it either. Yeah, we're all getting old. That's why I thought Deborah Hill must have directed something after declining a sequel. So the one thing about the deleted scenes, I don't know if you read this as well, but not only was there deleted scenes, there was also lost scenes as well. So the cutting room floor apparently was so untidy and dirty that some of the scenes were just lost or damaged, that they didn't have the funds to go back and reshoot. So there might have been some scenes in this film that would have made more sense if they kept them in or didn't lose them. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Yeah. There's stuff that they wrote and shot, but only shot half of it. And never kind of plot holes in the film. If we talk about the plot holes, that might help us come into the stuff that
got the list.
yeah. So plot holes are things like Laurie when she's in that kind of catatonic state.
Yep.
Like what's happened there, and there is an explanation for it. And also there was a whole kind of subplot with Dana Carvey and the TV reporter, not the bloke, but the lady.
Deborah.
Yeah. And it was all to do with how Michael gets to the hospital. So she, at that point where where Hunt and Lumis are talking, and he's saying, where did they take her, and Haddonfield Memorial, all that kind of stuff. You can see her at the side of the screen listening in. Yeah. Well, initially she would get in her car she tells Dana Carvey to go to the hospital to get an interview with Laurie. She would get in her car to drive there, unknowing that Michael is in the boot of her car. Okay, so but what he's also done is he's let her tire down. And as they're going as she's driving to the hospital, she has to pull over because the tire's deflated. When she pulls over, a trucker is nearby and comes over to help her, and that means Michael can't get out to deal with her, to get into the So the trucker was played by Rick Rosenthal. It was like a cameo that he had. She gets back in the car, drives off because she's afraid of Rick Rosenthal, and she decides that the car's in such bad shape that she stops again, gets out to try and deal with the tire herself, opens the boot, Michael slits her throat, and then drives the rest of the journey to Haddonfield Memorial. Now, why she didn't let her drive all the way, I have no idea. But in the meantime, Dana Carvey's character has got into the hospital, and he's trying to get an interview with with Laurie. Let me just read my notes here. When he arrives at the hospital, Laurie realizes that Michael's still alive because the last thing she knows, he was shot out the balcony. She realizes he's still alive because Dana Carvey's asking her these questions. Mrs. Alves turfs him out, throws him out the door, sends him on his way. And because she's so neurotic, they drug her.
Yeah.
And that's why later in the movie, she's, in that catatonic state. And I also wonder whether the car that Laurie gets into at the end of the film, when Jimmy gets in, when she gets out and the tire's slashed.
Yeah.
I wonder if that is to do with Michael slashing the tire earlier on in the film.
Possibly.
In the deleted scene. I wonder if that has something to do with that. So there's a lot of things that happen that kind of don't sort of add up in Halloween 2. But when you look at this kind of whole deleted subplot, which Rick Rosenthal, I've made a note here, says it was only partially filmed, would have made sense if they'd put it in. When Carpenter came on board, they needed a kind of mechanism to get Michael to the hospital, and so that's why they shot the boombox scene.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whose kid was it again? Was it Erwin Yablon's kid or somebody?
Dick Warlock's kid.
Dick Warlock's kid. Yeah. So it's almost like they just shot that just to include his kid in. But yeah, that was the explanation of how he got to the hospital when we saw the sign and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I much prefer the subplot with Deborah because that sounds a lot better. Obviously, Rick Rosenthal would have been in that scene as well.
Yeah.
So much better. And obviously, with you saying that it was they had to double dose Laurie because she was going nuts. It was a double dose of diazepam that was deleted. So they still didn't. There's some things that they put in to explain, like showing Michael walking to Haddonfield Hospital. Okay, we knew how he got there because of that. But they never really explained the double dose thing where she just was totally out.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It was weird.
And also, wasn't there something to do with Michael killing the power as well, which you don't get in this film. You get something with the phones, and Mr. Garrett goes off and tell Mr. Garrett we were having trouble with the phones. But there's a whole thing with the power going as well, which we don't see in the film.
Yeah, so I think I wrote that down as well. Michael cuts the lights in the deleted scenes, which then we would know why. But then they were still cut. The hospital was dark in the final cut, and it was left unanswered. So there was nothing to explain. They just kind of left it like that. There was another. This was a tense scene. Well, I thought it sounded quite tense. I don't know if they filmed it or if it was just an idea. But there was a scene where Michael makes a noise in the child's baby room. So he's hiding in a closet in the baby room. Remember, you've seen all the babies?
Yeah.
So he's in the baby room. He hides in the closet, and then Karen comes in. She hears a noise, and Michael, you see from Michael's point of view, Karen looking at the babies, making sure the babies are okay. I'm sure we saw a scene like that, but she walks out, and Michael just stays there looking, and you can just hear him breathing. That would have been a really good scene as well.
It's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
Well,
it's bad enough when he walks in and he's just kind of glancing over them and then kind of walks out again. But have him standing there lingering over them,
I don't mean. I mean, like him in the closet. You just see.
That's even worse.
Just breathing, looking at Karen. No, he's obviously.
Looking at Karen. I thought you were looking at the babies.
No. Look, so he's looking at Karen, and you just hear him breathing like.
Yeah.
And then Karen walks, and I'm guessing that's when Karen goes to Bud, and then they go into the hot tub together.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of those deleted scenes or unshot scenes made more sense because adding them in, it adds on things like, oh, that makes sense. There was one big scene that did not make sense that was left in, was when Laurie eventually gets the strength to run from the hospital to the car. She gets in the car, Jimmy comes, she gets out the car when she sees Lumis, and she starts crawling again. She can't walk.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just ran to the car. Why are you crawling now? Is there something?
Well, she falls out, there? Doesn't she?
Well, she doesn't really. She kind of stumbles out.
Her ankle's band, like she's got her legs not too good, but she falls out of the car as she's getting out. And I always figured that because her ankle's in a bad way after the fall down the staircase. That's why she was, kind of crawling along the floor and everything. Yeah, maybe.
Possibly. But she also can't speak for a second as well. She's like, help, help.
Well, that would explain her being drugged, in the deleted scene. That would all make more sense, wouldn't it? That she's kind of coming round from this, she was sedated, wasn't she, completely?
Yeah, double dose sedated. So some of the scenes didn't make sense in the final cut. I think obviously watching them all over these years, we've come to accept the scenes and come to accept the errors and stuff like that. But if you're watching for the first time as an adult, you might go, "Oh, that doesn't make sense. Why are they doing their work in the dark? Why is it an empty hospital? Why is Laurie Strode all drugged up when she only got, like, I don't know, one dose of whatever it was?" So there's a lot of questions that would get asked, but today you don't really ask them. Is there any other deleted scenes that you read about?
I think we've covered the majority of them, haven't we? I mean, there's a lot of kind of alternate takes and extended shots that you get in the TV cut. I don't know if you've watched the TV cut of Halloween 2.
I've seen it. Yeah.
It feels kind of different. It's a whole different vibe to the film. You instantly recognize that this is a different take. This is a different shot. This is, I don't know whether this is kind of like shots that, I'm not sure if you're aware, but when they're making a movie, they will shoot, if somebody curses, they will shoot an alternate version for airlines and for TV and things like that. So there's all sorts of different takes and extended shots and different shots and things that are out of order in the TV version. It's interesting watching it. I've only watched it twice. I don't hate it. I always find it quite fascinating watching it to see how different it is. I mean, it's essentially the same film. It just kind of looks and feels different.
I'll need to rewatch it. I've not seen it for years. Is it on any Blu-rays that we've maybe got?
It's on the. It's on this.
Oh, I've got that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on this. Yeah, disc 2. Yeah.
I might give it a spin just to see what it's like. There's another, not a deleted scene, but an alternate change that they made. And Marilyn Chambers wasn't supposed to be in the movie. It was going to be a character called Susan Chambers, but they decided to go with a familiar face and just bring Marilyn, which then they gave her the last name Chambers because of Susan Chambers. So that's something I didn't know about until I read up the other day. But for continuity purposes, I think it's best to bring back Marilyn because she's a familiar face. But even though she was a familiar face, I didn't know that was the nurse. And
she looks totally different.
She does, yeah. And even when Lumis looked at her, he's like, "Oh, I didn't recognize you there.
You only saw her last night."
Yeah, and I'm like, "I didn't recognize you either." But it's been 3 years for me, so I don't. I've got an excuse, Lumis. You don't.
No, and even Nancy, what's her name? Loomis. Nancy Loomis, the actress.
The Annie.
No, sorry, Nancy Stevens. Nancy Stevens.
Oh yeah.
She had kind of aged and matured over the 3 years since the original movie being shot and this one, and she was dating Rick Rosenthal at the time when they were making this film.
That's right. Yeah. So it's quite handy to bring her back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because she was 29 in Halloween, so she's 32 in the next one.
Yeah. She did look. I mean, I hate saying this, but she did look. I think it was probably because she was dressed differently, maybe with her in the nursing outfit versus her in a kind of comfies and a jacket and everything.
She did look a lot older. I think
she did. Yeah.
I can't pronounce your first name. Apologies. Is it Connell McQuillan? Said Jimmy survived and was adopted by a family in Martha's Vineyard. He went on to study marine life and often took his mum Ellen on holiday in the Bahamas. I'm assuming that's a Jaws
4 reference.
Jaws 4.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Said, I think Nosferatu could make 100 million by New Year's 2025.
Could do.
I think it might. Debbie said she's looking forward to seeing Maxine. Me too. Can't wait. Are you going to do a premiere on Monday?
I
Or is
don't
it
know
like
what
an
it
advanced
is.
screening?
A friend of mine at Universal turned around and said they've got a screening on Monday night. I would imagine it's the press screening. I don't
Right.
know. But yeah, he sorted me tickets out. So
I
yeah.
never got any. I usually get an email for the press screening tickets, and it's always in London. And I'm like, oh, can't go. One day they'll do a Glasgow one. You never know. David Effrey said, I used to think Halloween 2 was the best sequel of the bunch, but as years have gone on, I find that it drags in so many spots. Really love Michael's portrayal, the cinematography, and the music. Um, I agree, David. I think to me it was one of the best ones, but it's went down on my list over the years. However, I have to say it. You love Michael's portrayal. I don't like Michael's portrayal in Halloween 2. What? How do you feel about Michael in Halloween 2?
Okay, so I
Be
knew there
honest.
was something. No. When I was a kid, when I watched it, I knew there was something slightly different
Mhm.
that I couldn't put my finger on. It's the way the mask sits. I don't have a problem with the way that he moves because he's a lot slower. But I always think to myself, and I've said this before, that I always put it down to the fact that he's been shot out of a window. So he's kind of, he's kind of maimed a little bit. So I always put that down, the slow movement, to the fact that he's slightly injured. That's what I tell myself anyway.
Yeah. Tell yourself that.
But I, for me, Dick Warlock is the second best Michael Myers. I would say Nick Castle, Dick Warlock, James Jude. And a lot of it is down to the fact that the mask, I think, looks so great on Warlock. I don't mind that you get the odd glimpse of his eyes now and again. I think it helps as well that the cinematography, the editing, the lighting is so on point with the original that it helps that performance of Michael a hell of a lot. Because there's still that, Rick Rosenthal adopted that kind of position of making sure that things were going on in the background, which we don't get too much of in latter Halloween movies. If the focus is on the foreground, but in the background you can see things moving. You can see Michael entering rooms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They lost all that as the sequels went on, and with this, there's a lot of it in there. Be it in the Elrod house, be it in the hospital, be it in numerous scenes where you can see Michael through windows or through curtains, or just generally a presence, and that's lost in a lot of the sequels, I think.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think the whole Michael Lurkin, the cinematography and stuff of Michael was fantastic. I even loved the look of the mask at the end when he's doing this, when he's holding his eyes. I loved the shape of it. It was great. The mask wasn't a problem for me. I think that obviously it's understandable that a mask that's been in a house for 3 years under a bed, we all know the story of Deborah Hill smoking for 3 years, it's going to look a bit battered. That's not a problem for me. I think it's just the movements of Michael is just not right. And I know you said that you put it down to him being injured and stuff. I think if you want to make a story up of why, then that's obviously a good story. But I just think he's too different to what he was in the first film. I think he's just moved too robotic for me. He had to move slow for specific scenes, for the scenes to flow. Like if he walked as he normally would, he would have caught Laurie about 10 times. So I get why he's walking slower. But for me, I just don't like the portrayal of how he moved in Halloween 2. He's supposed to be this cat-like character, like in the first one, which is why I absolutely adore Chris Duran's Michael Myers from Halloween H2O, because to me, his walk is the closest to the original to me personally. I know that a lot of people don't agree with that, but for me, Chris Durand is the closest I'll ever see to Nick Castle in Halloween 1 to Halloween H2O.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think Dick Warlock looks great. It just doesn't move great.
I don't know. I disagree. I think there's something really ominous about the way he moves in number 2. It's it's almost like he's cornered his prey. There's the scenes like Laurie in the elevator that moment, and he's walking. He's teasing her. He's walking slowly. He's making it more painful for her as he approaches. And I really kind of, you know, he knows that, you know, she's terrified of him, and he's just prolonging that whole experience, I think. And that's the way I look at it. I mean, you know, I get what you're saying. It can be a little bit too slow, but there are also moments in there where he looks terrific, like you say, when he's swiping the air with that scalpel, holding his eyes. There's a moment as well. One of my favorite shots in the film. There's two, actually. Two of my favorite shots in the film. One is when he steps out under the red light, which I think is fantastic. Just the music sting, the head going around the corner, the lighting, everything. I just think is fantastic. The other one, which I really like, and it's the quickest you see Michael move, is when Lumis tries to shoot him and the gun clicks, and Michael just goes like that at him, really, as if you want to shoot me. Do you know what I mean? And it's how his head turns really quick to look at Lumis as the gun clicks. And I think that shot there of it, and it's a split second. It's like half a second shot, and I've tried to capture it before because I love it so much. It's almost like, how dare you? And he moves so quick to look at him like that. And I love that shot. Just the way the mask looks in frame. It's terrific. Love that.
Another beautiful shot is when he, can't remember the nurse's name, when she goes to check on the doctor and he jumps up with the needle and it goes into her temple.
Yeah.
He moved fast then, but his face was great there because I think it was maybe a fish tank that was glowing.
It's Dr. Mixter's office, isn't it?
Yeah. And then either the fish tank or a TV or something's glowing in the darkness, and it's lighting his face from one side. And when he jumps up and does that, you get a fright. I actually got a fright again tonight when I watched it because I had the earphones on. Great scene though. Again, he looks great, whether it's up close or far away. My only issue with Dick Warlock is his walk. That's it. That's the only issue I have.
I just remembered a scene which they were. Now I don't know if they shot this or whether it was scripted. I don't know, but it's a scene that they. Whereas when Laurie's a kid, you know that she has that kind of when she's approaching her surrogate, her not stepmom. What do they call her?
Foster mother,
foster mom in the garden with that doll,
the Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, there was a whole scene whereas. Now this was obviously shot. I've just remembered this was obviously shot because there was a scene where as Laurie's parents were driving down the road with Laurie in the back, and if you look at the end credits, Laurie's father's credited in the end credits, but he's never in the film. So they obviously shot this sequence, and it's young Laurie in the back of the car, and it's like a dream sequence. And what happens is, all of a sudden, her parents' eyes start bleeding. And then she looks at her doll and her doll's eyes start bleeding, and it's foreshadowing what's to come later in the film. And it sounds like the stuff of nightmares. It does sound like something that Dario Argento would dream up. And I think that would have been so cool if they'd have left that in the film, this nightmare sequence that she's having, and almost like telling her what to do later in the film. Shoot him in the eyes.
Where's that blood coming from? Remember the scene that we kept in?
Well, that's obviously Nurse Alves is being killed around that point. It's the dripping on the floor.
Oh, right.
And Nurse Alves obviously is found with all the blood drained out of her.
So it's almost more foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's obviously kind of It's either happening at that point when Laurie is dreaming. Right. Or it's foreshadowing what's coming on later. But to have that scene with the Laurie and the doll and her parents all bleeding from the eyes, I think that would have been insane.
Is that the same doll that she had in Halloween 1 when she in her bedroom when she was looking out the window?
It could be. I'm not quite sure.
She also has it in Resurrection as well.
That's right. Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah.
Possibly. Maybe that was the attempt. I don't know. Kingslayer said, H2O, Michael's eyes are as bright as the stars. He's got beautiful eyes. That's what I think. And again, I've said this time and time again, I don't mind seeing Michael's eyes because we know who he is now. If he wasn't supposed to be Laurie's brother, if we didn't know who he was, then I would like for him to still have the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. But now that we know who he is, I don't mind seeing his eyes. It's not a problem for me. So we'll move on to the reception of Halloween, how it was perceived back in 1981. Now, I did try and look at some reviews for it. Most reviews were kind of bad, as would be expected, to be honest, because it's a horror movie. Halloween 1 got a lot of bad reviews, but this one really didn't get good reviews at all. What else did they say? So, yeah, critics mostly said they didn't like the fact that Halloween 2 was about explaining things rather than a continuation of what made Halloween 1 good. And that harks back to Rick Rosenthal. He wanted to do what the critics wanted and what we would have wanted, but they're saying what you've done and changed is for the worse. Would you agree with that if you were a critic? Back then?
It's difficult because critics are a bunch of people that probably watch a movie once, move on to a load of other movies, and then 3 years later they're watching Halloween 2, and they are, as a Halloween fan, I want that little bit more than just him wandering around killing people, and I think they gave it to us in this with this whole kind of backstory as a kind of loose explanation as to why he's doing what he's doing. Now, if you think about it, it makes sense. It doesn't take anything away from the original film because you've still got that. Do you know what I mean? If you don't like what they're doing in 2, you've still got the original movie. But it slots in nicely. The whole reason why he comes across Laurie and he's pursuing her and all that kind of stuff. It fits in. It doesn't not make sense. I know a lot of people don't like it, but like I say, as a kid, it was easy for me to buy into, and I get it now. I get why he's going after. He's killed one sister 15 years ago. Now he's trying to kill the other. I get it. It's this obsession that he has. There doesn't need to be an explanation for it all. It's just this obsession that he has in wanting to get rid of his siblings.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the critics, it's easy saying this because I'm a Halloween fan, but I genuinely believe the critics were wrong. Watching it today, it's over 40 years old and it still holds up pretty well. And like we've mentioned throughout this stream, the things that they do in that film can't be replicated today. And if they are, it's because people are asking for advice from the people who are doing it, like Dean Cundy. Just again, the lighting, everything about the film. And I don't know, I can't remember what the budget was. I think it was like $1.2 million or something. Really small budget still, but they have to move with the times. We already had Friday the 13th Part 2 by this point, and the body counts were getting bigger and bigger. So I think the things that they added in, although John Carpenter doesn't like them, I think the things that they added in were necessary to move along with slashers. It did bring back the slasher genre, but it has to move with the times, which is why I love Halloween H2O, because that was also moving with the times at the time. So yeah, bigger body count didn't bother me. The gore didn't bother me. I actually liked seeing it because it wasn't too in your face. The body count was
still
massive.
Very subtle as the gore in it, isn't it? Absolutely. It's not Savini work or anything like that. It's
definitely not.
It's incredibly subtle. And I mean, there's some great kill sequences in there. There, the hammer in the top of the head, even though it's not too graphic, does make you go, oof.
Yeah, the noise of it.
The goriest thing in there is probably the kid with the toffee apple in his mouth. Oh, the marshal's throat slitting, but even that's not overly graphic. It's not like the wounds opening up or anything. It's just a bloodline across his neck.
Yeah.
And then you have the hot tub scene, which is really nicely shot. It's the way that they shot it with all the different angles and everything. Each time a head comes out, you get a different angle with more damage to her face. It's there's some good stuff in there.
I think that scene with Karen is probably the longest kill. It's just because it was prolonged, and that might have been the best. To me, again, that's one of my best scenes. And if you look at the kills in the films, I think some of the kills in this one might rank up quite high for a lot of people as some of the best kills. in the franchise. Some of the most surprising ones as well. You always get films where you get someone opening a fridge door and then they close it and there's nothing there. And that tends to happen all the time now.
Yeah.
So what you don't expect to see these days is when they close a door, someone's going to be there. And that happens with the hammer scene. When they close the door, Michael's there and the hammer comes. I'm like, oh, because I was like, oh, I genuinely thought that the door was being closed and nothing was going to be there. And you're going to go, oh, nothing's there. Oh,
I think if Davey Deathray said in the chat earlier that he finds that some of it that it's quite slow in parts. I think as a kid and even now when you get to the Mr. Garrett scene, it does outstay its welcome pretty quickly before something happens. Yeah. And you get that kind of cliched cat moment. And there are a lot of scenes in this that just wouldn't stay on screen these days. It wouldn't make the final cut because it is just too prolonged. And that Mr. Garrett scene is just kind of it's endless minutes of him kind of popping open padlocks and things like that. It does get pretty tiresome, does that moment. But the payoff's good. The payoff's good.
Well, yeah, I think as long as the payoff is good, then I don't mind a slowish build-up. But I think scenes with Laurie lasted a little bit too long as well. Like when she was getting chased by Michael, although the chase scene was great, I think with Michael walking so slow, I was like, hurry up, like move a little bit faster to get after her. But it just doesn't. If they sped that up, then it might have been better. What was I going to say there? I was going to say something. I forgot, but I'll get to it because I think I might have wrote it down. It was just something about. No, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I completely forgot. Oh yeah, that was it. The choice of relegating Laurie in Halloween 2 to even less dialogue than Halloween Resurrection. Believe it or not, she got hardly any dialogue. She was supposed to be this big revelation of Laurie being the sister of Michael Myers. Had we known that now, we were like, okay, she's going to be in this movie even more than Halloween 1, knowing that she's now the focus of Michael. And even though she's the focus, we see her less and she has less dialogue. Did you not find that strange as well?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know how long she was on set, whether they were kind of, they were restricted with the amount of time that they had with her, because obviously she was a busy actress around that time. But also, she doesn't have a great deal to say. And one thing I remember listening when I listened to the commentary today, that Rick Rosenthal said that he had a friend who worked for Coca-Cola. So there's a few product placement moments in the film. There's one early on around the start of the movie. And there's also the moment when Jimmy comes in and says, "Can I get you a drink?" And it's one of the only few lines that she's got. And she just goes, "Coke."
Coke. Yeah. I'll have a Coke.
And that's all Rick Rosenthal, just to appease one of his buddies.
I'm surprised she didn't do this. A Pepsi.
That looked like how old is that can? It looked like something out of the 80s. Okay. Have they changed the logo back to the retro type one?
No, this is a 1980s can.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'd like to drink.
Has Scotland just got Pepsi?
We're just getting it now. Oh, check. Yeah, 1987. No, I think that's been a couple of years. This has been in. I'm sure. I hope. Otherwise, I'm drinking out of date Pepsi.
Blake's taking the piss in the chat. He says, "Hi Barry, big fan. Who's the other guy? Looks like somebody who would fire their maid."
Who said that, Ronnie?
No, Blake.
Oh, Blake. Sorry, I actually contacted. What's everyone's favorite flavor of ice cream? Mine's is a double scoops. I went onto my Twitter. I don't know if you've seen this before, but there's like hidden comments on Twitter, like hidden private messages.
Yeah.
I clicked on that just to see what happens, and I got like 300 messages come up from people.
Oh, really?
And one of them was Blake or Ronnie or one or the other. And it was just asking me like, "Oh, do you want to do a live stream sometime?" And I'm like, shit, this is like 4 years ago. So
they kept saying to me, "Barry ignores us."
No, he didn't. Did they say that? Oh my God.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
But the funny thing is, when they messaged me before, I messaged them back, and then it got hidden. So when they replied back to me, I didn't see the reply. So I read it the other day, and I said, "Oops," or something like that. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Then he replied back to me saying, "I don't even remember messaging you." I'm like, "Gee," it was about 4 years ago. So apologies, Blake and or Ronnie. Yeah. So yeah, all these messages come up, and I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Oh, they're good guys. You should do something with them.
Yeah, no,
You'll have
absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I've known them for a couple of years, and I've watched their stuff for a couple of years as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had I remembered or known that they messaged me back, I definitely would have got back to them. So apologies for that, guys. I really do apologize. It's not an excuse. That's what she said. Horror films get bad reviews and sequels to get bad reviews. Yeah, that's the thing. And you said that yourself, Darren. Most of the time, horror films will get bad reviews, especially sequels as well. It's just the kind of nature of the critics' game, to be honest, which is a shame. What was I going to say there? So yeah, that was talking about Laurie. Another thing that I noticed as well, I don't know if you noticed this, but she doesn't talk about her friends that died.
No.
She also doesn't talk about her friends who she doesn't know are dead.
She doesn't ask if Lindsay and Tommy are okay. No. You know, she doesn't say what happened. You know, what's going on with Annie, and you know, when's the funeral? What the hell? Nothing. You don't get anything. It's
that's a shame because it's supposed to be seamless. You know, it's a seamless night.
Yeah.
But like you said,
and she's the only patient in the hospital as well. That's the other thing.
That's right. Yeah. So where is everyone?
No one gets sick in Haddonfield.
Well, yeah, unless you're getting chased by Michael.
Yeah.
I just feel like you, I think you've hit the nail on the head. She's probably got 1 or 2 films filming at the same time. Mm-hmm. She's wearing a wig, obviously, so she needs to have her short hair for some other film. She's done Trading Places in '83. She had the short hair in that, and she was wearing wigs in that as well. So she's she was obviously sought after by the time Halloween 2 was filming. So I'm assuming that she's maybe got other jobs that she has to go to or wants to go to. Because I think at that point in her career, she didn't really want to be known as a scream queen anymore. Like, she'd done her bit and then she left.
She was at the tail end of all that, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's getting older as well. She can't play high school.
They probably said, look, come in for 5 days, do the stuff, and we'll give you a nice bung for it. And they made her an offer she couldn't refuse. And did like Lumis in the original Halloween. He was on set for 5 days or something, wasn't he? Paid him a nice chunk, got him in for 5 days, shot all of his scenes, and that was it. He was gone. It was interesting. One thing Leo Rossi says on the Halloween 2 commentary is when he's talking to Rick Rosenthal, and Rick Rosenthal shuts him off. He doesn't comment on it, but he turns around and to Rick Rosenthal and says, Donald Pleasance was great, wasn't he? And Rick Rosenthal, oh yeah, so professional. You know, we had great fun with him. He wasn't one of these people that was difficult to direct. He had no airs and graces about him. And Leo Rossi says, he liked a nip, didn't he?
A nip? Oh, a nip. That means something else in Scotland.
Oh, okay. We might like that as well. You never know. But yeah, he liked to drink, he was saying.
Right.
Yeah, which is something that we heard about, obviously, from around the time of Halloween 4 and 5. He was obviously drinking a little bit. But I didn't know that he was also on the sauce on Halloween 2 as well.
Oh,
but well, yeah.
He looked like he was on the sauce when Marilyn Chambers was explaining to him about Laurie being Michael's sister. Did you remember that? He was literally looking in the distance, going like that. Oh yeah.
And maybe that's why he didn't recognize Marion as well. He was just like, does he recognize you?
Get a little brown paper bag, because you have to have a brown paper bag in the US. And obviously he loved Jackson P. Sayers' alcohol swig as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, when he said, "Do you want one?" He kind of looks at it and goes,
"Absolutely." The only time he smiled in the whole franchise. It's like, oh. I want to talk about a scene that one of the best scenes for you. I know this is one of your favorite scenes in the whole franchise, and that is the fire stunt scene at the end of Halloween 2.
Yeah.
I watched it today, and it's still, again, one of the most impressive fire stunts that you'll ever see, I guess, because they don't really do that much fire stunts like that anymore. for more safety precautions. It didn't look safe at all. You can tell that it's not Michael because it's big, massive thing.
Big suit on and everything. But
talk us through it if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid seeing it, and I'm in the film industry, and I've watched a hell of. My job is a lot of the time watching films. I've watched so many films over the years, a lot of action pictures, a lot of horror films, and I don't ever remember seeing a fire sequence as intense and hot as that. There's no part of his body that is not alight. Now, when you look at what the stuntman who covered for Robert Englund in A Nightmare on Elm Street did, where he's running around the house, which is impressive, it's incredible. He's kind of partially on fire. And the same with Kane Hodder, who, God bless him, got burnt for real in the late 70s, and then came back and did numerous fire stunts after that. And I think Prison was one of them, and New Blood, where he does an amazing fire stunt in New Blood. But you can still see the features of the mask of his face, and his body and things like that. The same that you can with Freddy. You can still see that his jumper and that kind of stuff, his pullover. But with Dick Warlock in Halloween 2, that firewalk, you can't see any of him. Every single millimeter of his body is ablaze, and I don't mean like just on fire. It's an inferno.
Yeah.
And when he's walking, I remember listening. There's a podcast out there. The guy who does Halloween Daily News, Matt, I can't remember his surname now. He did an interview with Dick Warlock, and he asked him about it. And he just tossed it aside. He just said, "Yeah, I did it like 3 or 4 times." I think he says maybe 3 times. He said I did it, and he got burnt as well. He got burnt doing it, but he didn't moan about it or anything like that. He said, "Yeah, I got burnt, but I mean, I don't mean got 3rd-degree burns or anything, but he got a certain amount of burns on him from it." But he doesn't make a big deal about it. He said that wasn't the hardest stunt. The hardest stunt was choreographing the whole Ben Tramer sequence and doing that. He said that was the hardest thing in the film to do. The firewalk was one of the easier things that he did it, because they also did the fall out the window. They reshot the fall out the window, didn't they? And I just think, Jesus Christ, it's one of the most impressive fire stunts I've ever seen. It really is. It's, and you can see, if you look very closely, you can see that tiny little scalpel in his hand.
Can you?
Still got the scalpel in his hand. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Attention to detail there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would know this, Darren, but when you see the firewalk scene and you've got Laurie Strode in the foreground and he's in the background, and Laurie's hiding behind this container thing, and when she turns around to see him, she's got obviously the lighting on her face as all the fire, the flames and stuff. Do you think that Jamie Lee Curtis was there, or do you think it was shot 2 separate scenes? So do you think she was actually watching him walking towards? Really?
She might not have been there. She might not have been there for that stunt. I don't know. My biggest concern is that wig with that heat.
Well, exactly. I don't think, it's almost like these days she wouldn't be there. Obviously, they would make it like green screen or whatever. But if she was there, the whole place is on flames. It's not just him. It's like everywhere is on flames. The guy must have been the busiest Michael Myers ever in terms of stunts. But I just feel like it's a bit too dangerous to have an actress so big, so close to what they were doing there. If they did, then props to Jamie Lee Curtis. But if she wasn't there, props to the person who edited that scene, because it looks like she was there. So either way, I'm impressed either way. Because the stunt and the way it was shot was great.
The whole thing's just great. They just needed to just zoom in ever so slightly to take out those edges.
Yeah.
Where you can see behind the set and everything. But, you
can see that in Halloween 1, the people smoking above the hedges.
The hedges,
Obviously, John Carpenter there. And that's minor details, though. If you're watching in 4K, though, you'll notice it a lot.
Yeah.
I think the last thing to discuss really is the idea they had for Halloween 2 is, of course, Season of the Witch. And I don't mean Season of the Witch, I mean the anthology idea. John Carpenter said, don't want to do a sequel. I told the story of Michael Myers. Let's move on to a different Halloween story now and talk about something else. Had you not known, I know it's hard to think about this, but had you not known about Halloween 2, do you think it would have been best to continue with Michael Myers? Or would you have liked to have seen that anthology that was the original plan?
And in terms of going straight into an anthology after number 1?
Yeah, so one's done. No
Yeah.
Michael, no more Michael. The next Halloween film will be called Halloween, of course. Halloween, such and such.
I think I was the thing as a kid, you know, discovering that there was a Halloween 2, because when I saw Halloween, there wasn't. To me, there wasn't. It had been made, but it wasn't in a cinema or a video shop in the UK. So I had no way of knowing unless I bought Fangoria, and at 10 years old or whatever I wasn't going to do that. I was just delighted to know that there was a Halloween 2. I think if I'd have gone it, and I remember how I felt when I watched Halloween 3, which was maybe a year after Halloween 2, being disappointed that Michael wasn't in it, and my parents having to convince me that he's dead. You know, he died in number 2, and I was just kind of, why have they done a Halloween 3?
Yeah,
for me, it should have been called Season of the Witch. And I love Halloween 3 now. I hated it when I first saw it, but now I absolutely love it. I think that I was happy enough that they'd done a Halloween 2. I wouldn't have liked them to have gone onto that anthology route straight away. I'm quite happy with what they've done. And even when 4 got announced, I remember reading about 4. By the time 1987 came along, I was buying Fangoria and reading up about horror all the time. And I remember them saying there was one issue, I think, and it said next month, Halloween 4. And I was like, what? There's going to be and it said Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And I was like, what? No, it can't be. He's dead. He's dead.
My parents lied to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then I had to kind of condition myself again and get my head around the fact that, you know, this guy who's been blown up, shot in the eyes, you know, is still alive. So I love Halloween 3. I'm glad they did what they did. But, you know, I would definitely love to see them do something of an like you've been doing. I don't know, the trailers you've been putting up today, Russellville, bloody, what else was there on there? Warren County, Russellville, Smallville, whatever it is, Santa Mira, all that stuff. Are they your ideas for individual anthology episodes?
Yeah, with like, let's look at Russellville, for example. We would have characters like Charlie Bowles.
Yeah.
We would also have Eddie Lee, who was a character by name in Halloween 2.
That's right. Yeah.
Darcy and Karen were at the car. She said, why didn't you just get Eddie Lee? And she's like, oh, he's in Russellville. So they always mention Russellville. And I'm like, that would be interesting to do an anthology of the area of Russellville, which is in Arkansas, which isn't too far from Illinois. Little small things like that, and build on those areas, and then lead up to a place called Haddonfield. And then that would be your finale. That's my idea. I'm going to break it down more and do more videos on those, but that's a kind of small idea for anthologies.
I think that's, I would be totally happy if this Halloween TV series did something like that. But having been at the Halloween 45 convention when Malik was talking about Halloween and how hot Michael Myers is at the moment, and, you know, is part of pop culture and everybody recognizes him, it's too good an opportunity not to involve him in any sort of Halloween thing that they have coming up next. But yeah, I'd love to see them do an anthology.
I think there's ways around it though. You can still do an anthology and have Michael Myers there. There'll be ways around it. But going back to the question, I feel the same as you. I think because Halloween was so good, I just wanted to see Michael Myers, and I was really disappointed by Season of the Witch because it was called Halloween 3. You expect to see Michael Myers. So knowing what we know now, it's hard not to know what we know now. So the Halloween 2 that we got is the Halloween 2 that I would have preferred, whether that be about the hospital or not. Michael Myers had to be front and center for me, especially with the way Halloween 1 ended.
Yeah.
Knowing that he didn't die and he just disappeared, it wouldn't make sense to us as a viewer to have no Michael Myers. And I know that that was the way it ended back then. Even John Carpenter said loads of films ended like that back in the day where there was no answer, but it was acceptable, which is fine.
Yeah.
But these days, people want an explanation.
Of course.
And we got that. We got that with Halloween 2. So overall, I wasn't expecting to like Halloween 2 as much as I did today, because I enjoyed it when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite sequels. It had went down on the list of sequels for me. However, if I'm re-ranking the movie, I won't do it now. If I'm re-ranking it though, I think it's going to move back up again because it holds up so well and it's filmed amazingly, better than a lot of the sequels. Like, I know that Resurrection was a way below it anyway, but look at the quality difference between a film made in 1981 and a film in 2002. It's night and day, and you would expect Resurrection to be better in terms of quality and cost. It's just not, So
yeah.
Props to Halloween 2 and everyone involved. Such a great sequel.
It is, and I definitely rank it second for sure. I go. I mean, if off the top of my head, can I do this now?
Do your top 3 or 4 at least.
I'll do my. Let me do my top 5.
Right. Go for it.
1, 2, 4. I'm going to contradict myself now because I did a ranking the other day on.
It changes all the time. Don't worry.
It does change all the time. It's like me changing my shirts. I 1, 2, 4, 3, 18.
That's admirable. Yeah.
Okay.
Mine's would be 1, H2O, ends, 4, and I'm going to say Halloween 2. Sticking it back in the top 5. Again, that's just me guessing.
I mean, I don't hate ends like a lot of people do. I don't think it's amazing either, but you think ends is better than Halloween 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watch the films as individual movies, which is why I love Season of the Witch. So I know that ends is the finale of a trilogy. I know that it's missing things that it shouldn't be missing, and I know that it's got things in it that shouldn't be there. But if I watch it as a film on its own, it's great. Like, it would have been, ironically, it would have been better without Michael Myers, but it's got Michael Myers, and I have to accept that. I just think it's a great film, great story, great character development. The arc of Corey Cunningham, is amazing. The beginning of Halloween Ends is one of the best beginnings in any Halloween. Again, this is all my opinion. It's one of the best openings to any Halloween film ever. I think it's got so many tones to it, so many undertones, so many messages that it's trying to tell you. I just love it. I could talk about Halloween Ends forever, and I have done before. I just love it so much. And I think anytime I watch it again, I say to myself, I'm going to hate this more. I don't. I love it more. And I'm scared to watch it again because it might be better than H2O for me at some point. I just can't accept that.
I've only seen it twice. Once in a cinema, and I think I watched it once on streaming. And I have this box set here that's just kind of like looking at me all the time. And I should really crack it open and watch all 3 of them again in 4K and see how my opinion is after that.
You should. Again, I know that ends isn't for everyone. If you'd like it, then I'm happy with it. If you don't like it, I get why. If somebody says to me, I hate Halloween Ends because Michael Myers is on it for the last 10 minutes. Corey Cunningham, who's this guy? I'm like, I accept that. If you're in for it for Michael Myers, I totally understand. If you wanted to see Michael and you didn't get Michael, I get that. I was expecting Michael. I wasn't expecting Corey, and I got Corey instead of Michael. And I'm okay with it. I don't know why. I'm okay with it. I accepted it. When I first watched it, I thought that's really good, but strange for a finale. And then I watch it again. I'm like, do you know what? I get the message. I get what they're going for. And then I watch it again. I'm like, I love this. I've already accepted it. I don't have to go into it trying to accept it.
Yeah.
Because I have, and now I can just enjoy it, and it's great. So
cool.
Number 3 for me. We'll go into the chat again, guys. I won't keep you too much longer, Darren. We'll go in, we'll read some comments, and then we'll call it.
I'm okay for time. I'm good. I've took tomorrow off anyway, so yeah.
Nice one. Let's go in. Oh, do you ever get this? Sometimes you go into the chat, you're about to click on something, and it scrolls.
It vanishes. Yeah.
I don't know where I was there. Apologies. I was going to read something out. I'll start here. Vanderhoff. Hello, Barry and Darren. Vanderhoff, you might have just gotten into the end there. Apologies. I'd normally do this about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, but we're doing it a little bit earlier because it's 2 UK guys for a change, which is always good for me. So welcome to the chat. If you've already been chatting, then great. It's difficult for a horror film to get a good review. The same goes for... Oh, I think I read that one. Something like that. Apologies. Let me just see. I've skipped all the way back up now. Grace Simmel says, Michael's chase scenes in H2 reminds me of Mr. Herbert's dog in Family Guy. Don't recall. Is it? I guess it's like a slow scene.
Is it a slow dog?
It must be an old dog. Castellar Daniel Garcia says, Curtis in the sequel shares the screen with Lance Guest and Donald Pleasance. There you go. Didn't know that.
Yeah. That's it. Those are the only two. No, she shares it with more than those two. But
yeah,
are you just saying?
Oh,
it's just a statement. That's it.
They're in the movie because obviously she shares it with
Nancy
Stevens,
with Jimmy, with Bud, with Mixter, with a lot of the characters. Yeah.
Big Warlock.
Yeah.
Simon says, "Hey guys, love Halloween 2. It feels most like the original than any of the other sequels. Dan did the best firework ever and has the best ending for Michael and Lumis to me." But that's one thing we didn't mention: the sacrifice of Dr. Lumis. I thought that was great. Like, if that was the very end and Dr. Lumis died protecting Laurie because he feels like it was his responsibility, it's a good ending for him, isn't it?
Dan did the best fire. You mean Dick did the best firework?
Yeah, I think he meant that.
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, what do you think of Loomis's sacrifice at the end?
I'm not sure.
Was that you?
That was my Alexa.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, strange.
Loomis's sacrifice in terms of
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to press for that.
Yeah, he was just like, there's no other way of me stopping him. That it was totally admirable. And it was interesting on the commentary, again, like I said to you before, Rick Rosenthal turning around and going, not many people know this, but that there is Dana Carvey. He did a similar thing. You see this scene here with Officer Hunt? Watch. He gives Lumis the cigarette lighter. And that, you will find out later in the film what that's all about. It's like, for fuck, we know that. Why are you telling us that?
Yeah, we wouldn't watch the movie for the first time with you talking all over it. Yeah, that's strange. Maybe they just didn't have anything, or maybe they just don't remember.
I think it's like a day at the office. I think it's like if someone said to you, think back to what you were doing back in, I don't know, on the 23rd of July in 2002. You wouldn't have a clue.
Nah.
In the same way, this is their job.
Exactly.
Directing a movie is their job. And if you ask them certain questions about a film, like John Carpenter says all the time, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
It'd be good to hear him in his commentary these days. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember at all. And it's the same with this. He's picked up on a moment in the film there because he hasn't seen the film for so long. It sparked a memory. Oh, yeah, we did this scene because later on it blows up and all this kind of stuff. He has no idea what the fan base are watching these like day in, day out. You know what I mean? And have picked up on this stuff countless times. He's no idea about that.
No. And it's a shame for the old people. We'll get that way soon. Blake said, Barry, big online debate going on right now. How many babies did Lumis kill by blowing up the hospital? Well, that's like you said, Darren. I didn't even think of that until you mentioned that.
Killing the kids, yeah.
I'm going to say 6.
I'd like to think they got them out of there at some point.
Or they forgot about them. You never know.
Because the parents must have been in there, right? You don't leave your baby in a hospital on its own.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe there was a maternity ward that we didn't explore. I don't know.
It was different back then.
Yeah, leave your babies. That's what she said. Halloween 3 is my favorite of the sequels. And again, if that's your favorite of the sequel, nobody's going to disagree, especially today.
I love it.
Maybe 20 years ago, people would be like, what? But it's accepted now that it's one of the top sequels.
Great.
Yeah. You know, it feels more Halloween-like than a lot of the sequels, even though Michael Myers isn't in it.
Well, it's Dean Cundey again, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, it's this again the same crew behind the other two films, and even do you know how much involvement Tommy Lee Wallace had on the original Halloween? He's back directing this, and it has that feel of being set in and around, you know, the same time as the other movies. It looks the same, it feels the same. The soundtrack's Alan Howarth, and who's kind of adopted that. It's John Carpenter and Alan Howarth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who kind of obviously was some sort of protege of his that adapted his sound and went on to do many other films with a similar sort of, you know, feel.
Kind of synthy, kind of score to it.
Yeah.
And you've also got a robotic Dick Warlock again, an actual robot this time.
Yeah.
There you go. Playing Michael Myers yet again. So yeah, it's a great sequel. Again, asked me 20 years ago, I'd be like, nope. But do now.
See you, Alley Girl.
What is Alleyway? See you later, Ali.
Yeah.
Ali G.
Ali G.
Ali G. Josh K said, Ends was an enjoyable film. Interesting story that got told, but just not an end to that trilogy. Yeah, again, I totally accept that, and I can see where people are coming from with that. Gray said, 4, 1, Ends, 18, and H2O is their top 5. I'm assuming 4 is your favourite, Gray, to H2O your 5th. Again, I love all 5 films. 2018 didn't quite make my top 5, but it was quite close to the top 5. Davey says, Barry preaching the truth. Do you mean Ends, Davey, or H2O will be my second?
I think it's Ends. Ends.
I'm one of those weirdos that has the entire David Gordon Green trilogy in my top 5. Again, to me, there's not a bad entry.
If that's what you like, that's great. And I don't dislike those films at all. I thought it was a great period. 2018 to 2022, or 2017 even to 2022 was an amazing period for Halloween fans.
Yeah,
amazing.
Again, it's better to get some movies than none at all.
I'm not one of these people who thinks they should stop necessarily, because I just love the fact that 46 years later we're still talking about this movie, and I've still got those ones I love, the original movies, and no one's taking those away from me. So if you want to do something else, great. You know, it's going to appeal to other people. That's fantastic. Might not appeal to me, but I can certainly get on board with all the hype and speculation and everything and rumors. It's fun. Why not?
Halloween was the reason my channel got bigger. So more Halloween content for me means more eyes on my channel. So I'm happy with that as well.
Yeah.
Byron says, speaking of Halloween Ends, I got a sequel in mind and a limited series that takes place in that timeline. Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you can continue that timeline would be to have Corey survive the stab into the neck and the choke into his larynx, which would explain him not speaking. He would be the next Michael Myers that doesn't speak, and we would know the reason for that. And then he would go after Allison, who's pregnant with his baby, because they got frisky and Halloween Ends. So I'm assuming that she would have a baby, and he's after her and the baby. Kind of similar vibes to the original Halloween story. That's the way I would see it. That's the only way I would see a continuation of Halloween Ends. No other way, unless there is another way. Who knows? Who else have we got here? Shamrock Ball says, yo, party in Darren's house.
Oh, because I'm off tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, guess what? So I can't get time off work, but my wife and kids are going to Butlins in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
Or a week and a half. So I've got the house to myself for a full week.
Lovely. Are you?
So, yeah.
There'll be content. There'll be content coming out your ass.
Yeah,
for the next month.
Shooting for 7 days. Can't believe it. That will do me till 2026. But I'm going to try and get some live streams in there as well, which will be good.
Excellent.
And I'll be able to do my live streams in my studio as well, because I can actually do the live streams in my studio, but I don't want Claire walking past the camera all the time, because it's annoying, because my camera's at one side of the room and my seat is at the other side. So
yeah.
The only way to get past is walking right in front of the camera. Not practical, but if I've got the house to myself, then it's absolutely fine. So good stuff there. Who else have we got? Byron says, Darren, have I told you about my Halloween series? It takes place in the... Oh, yeah. So that was the...
what you talked about earlier.
Comment
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. Lumis, I killed 6 babies. I never even thought of that when I said 6 babies. That's quite funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's funny. Colin Murday, welcome, Colin. Said, I watched The Thing with Dean Cundy's commentary on the other night. Great commentary. It's on the Scream Factory release. Worth a listen if you haven't heard it before. I've got the Arrow release. Has it got the same commentary? Do you know? Don't know. What have you got?
Somewhere. What happened to it?
It's okay if you don't have it.
I'm worried about where it's gone.
Someone's borrowed it.
It was on my shelf right there.
Is it the Arrow one or the Scream Factory?
It's the Studio Canal one that came out. You know, the box set.
Yeah, that's right, the 4K. I'm sure we'll find it.
Yeah, never mind. I'm worried now.
Don't worry about it. You can buy it again. Right, so we've got 2 minutes. What I like to do, Darren, is it hardly ever happens, but I'm trying to get my live streams just under 2 hours, so that when it stops, it allows me to auto-generate shorts for...
Oh, okay.
If it goes over 2 hours, it doesn't allow you to do the automated shorts. So that's why I'm trying to get it under 2 hours. So we've got 2 minutes to say our goodbyes to everybody. So it was a pleasure having you on, Darren. I know that you absolutely love Halloween 2. It's your second favourite in the franchise. So who better to speak to than yourself when it comes to Halloween 2? And it's good that I rewatched it again for this video and read up on some of the facts as well. And some of the facts were things that I didn't know, which was great. So it's good to rewatch it and find out new things about it. And that's why I want to do this double scoops thing, explore films in the franchise again, even go back into Halloween 2 eventually and talk about other things about Halloween 2, like more in depth and stuff, which is good. But it's a good kind of re-watch of Halloween 2, and it was great to have you on so we can kind of bounce back and kind of talk about it. So
no, it's great. It was great fun. It's like I say, it is my second favorite in the franchise, and I never tire of watching it. I really don't. And even as bad as that version is that we've got here, and I know I'm watching the clock here, as naff as the box set is here, I still wanted to have it and as part of the collection. So I really do like the film.
I think I've got Halloween 1, 2, and 3 the most. Because I think the UK and Spain and Germany, we always bring out all these versions of it. And I always buy them. I'm a sucker for them anyway, so I've got that version as well. So I'll definitely watch the TV cut again.
Oh, it's worth a watch for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely check it out. See it from a different perspective again. Anyway, but anyway, guys, thanks a lot for chatting away, guys. I know that you've been chatting to yourselves as well, which I appreciate. I will go back and read some of the live chats as well and try and comment on some of the things as well. And get back in touch with you. If you get any questions after the fact, leave your comments down below. I'll leave Darren's channel down below as well. If anyone hasn't subscribed to Darren on The Slaughtered Lamb, and nice. So I know I've got less than a minute, so that's why I'm trying to hurry up. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and myself and Darren will see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.